Yeah, so yeah, this will be part 2. Just gonna go over the Starter Deck cards one by one and just talk about, you know, what I was thinking when I made them. Had to have a brief little break because the server rebooted. But yeah, so we'll start with, Yugi's deck. So we've gone over Dark Magician, Celtic, Feral Imp, and Winged Dragon already. One thing I'll also say with Celtic, Feral, and Winged Dragon is that I did have Sangan and Witch in mind when I made them. Similar to my philosophy with other cards, like my reasons for including block attack in the starter decks, often I find that more options are better than less options. So the specific benefit to having these sorts of floaters, their stats are higher than Sangan and Witch. While Sangan and Witch are more generic in terms of the things that they can search, so it gives decks a lot of options. If you're playing a specific themed deck, you should have probably, at the very least, 3 different sorts of Sangan cards. And when I say 3, I mean you have 1, but you'll run 3 of it. As things stand, I don't think that Sangan is too powerful by any means. I think that Witch might still be a card that would end up being limited, even in this environment. It is super good, but certainly having the glut of floaters does help when you get to the Metal Raiders period. You have, I think, 8 themed floaters now that I've added the green Phantom King to Legend of Blue Eyes, or I gave it a different effect. So I made it a plant searcher, and then Metal Raiders has 4 of them as well. That's not including more specific themed ones. There are more specific themed ones, like my version of Armored Zombie, which, as you can see, can add a dark zombie type monster with 0 defense from your deck to your hand, or my version of Swords and a Landstar, which adds a card that specifically states 6-sided die in its card text from your deck to your hand. I'm talking just more generic ones. There's a glut of them, which I think is good, because if you only had Sangan and Witch, really the game would just be Sangan and Witch, the game, and everything would revolve around them. So yeah, these were nice inclusions in that sense. So then on to the tributes. Start off with Summon Skull, because it's the strongest one as far as its stats go. So as far as the design went, I didn't want to give the 1 tribute monsters Monarch-like effects. I think that would have been too soon for it. So the 2 tribute ones do have Monarch-esque effects. The 1 tribute ones don't. They'll have restrictions on their effects, which we'll get into with Curse of Dragon. But I designed all the tribute monsters with Soul Exchange in mind, assuming Soul Exchange had the condition of the tribute summoned monster not being able to attack. I changed Soul Exchange so that it's not you can't declare an attack. It's a bit extreme, but that tribute summoned monster cannot declare an attack this turn. So with that in mind, Summon Skull is pretty fair. I just gave it a sort of Parshath-esque effect, but it obviously doesn't have the piercing, but it has 2500 attack, which is pretty sweet, searchable by Feral Imp. Really comes up in a lot of situations, and we've enjoyed it. It's not a broken card at all. It's heavily flawed. Loads of things get over it. Dies to trap hole, block attack, mitigates it, and then it's only got 1200 defense, so it's really easy to get over. But the effect applies good pressure, and if the opponent doesn't have an out to it, it can run away with things, which is fine with us. Then we got Curse of Dragon. Its original effect, like as in the effect that I gave it originally in the first patch, it wasn't very good. It didn't float, which meant that it was pretty much useless, and then because of that, the Dragon package really was the weakest. I would say that it still is the weakest. If you're, comparing Feral Imp, Celtic, and Winged Dragon, Feral Imp is definitely the best because it gets Large Jin and Ryukish empowered, which are 2 of the best cards. And then Celtic Guardian and Winged Dragon are sort of comparable in terms of the power level of the things that they get, but Celtic Guardian has more options at this stage of the game than Winged Dragon. So buffing Cursor Dragon was in the best interest of the game, just in order to make dragons a bit more competitive. So then in terms of the lore, it's like, well, how do I do that? So I gave a lot of the dragons, you know, popping effects. I should do it, so it's just my own. That's weird. That's a cute image though, whoever did that, wow, that's sick. So, yeah, my blue eyes, obviously target one monster in the field, destroy it. Trihorned is target one spell trap on the field, destroy it. Harpy's pet dragon, top deck something. Reran, discard something from the hand. Seiryu pops a face up thing. Red Eyes pops a set thing. You get the idea with dragons. I wanted them to be more about popping, and the lower level ones are less strong. So my design for Meteor Dragon is when this card is sent to the graveyard, target one face-up monster whose defense is less than this card's defense, destroy it. So it is a floater, but not a clean floater. Meteor Dragon actually has a lot of relevance in the Legend of Blue Eyes meta with this effect, but that'll be for a separate video when we get onto that. What did I give Crawling Dragon? Defense position monster? Yeah, so similar sort of effect. As you can see, you know, they're meant to be the monarchs, I guess, of the game, but all of them are sort of limited in a way. The fact that the bigger dragons have to pop something does limit them somewhat. So in the case of Cursor Dragon, it was like, you know, he isn't Blue Eyes, he isn't Red Eyes or anything. He's one of the weaker dragons, but he's not one of the level 4 dragons. I didn't give any of the level 4 dragons destruction effects. They're more sort of about gathering other dragons and just making the dragon engine more consistent. You've got Komori Dragon, you've got Winged Dragon, you've got my version of Fairy Dragon, which is another searcher, but in a different style to Winged Dragon. You've got Blackland Fire Dragon in Metal Raiders. And of course there are dragons that aren't involved in this theme, but you get the sort of general gist. So if you're doing Cursor Dragon, you can either have it embellish on the engine or fit in with the sort of Monarch theme, and I like this effect. I think it makes sense. It works within the lore of the card. You know, it will come in and kill something weaker than it, but it's certainly not OP by any means. It doesn't do anything to a set monster. It doesn't do anything to a monster that's bigger than it. So it will just sit in your hand a lot of the time. What we found in terms of actually playing with these is that they will search something, but then the thing that you search will sit in your hand for ages, which kind of balances it. But yeah, I like Cursor Dragon with this effect. I think that it's very fair and improves it. And then for the second bit, if this card is sent to the graveyard, target one monster on the field. While this card is in the graveyard, that monster cannot be tributed. Well, it was with Gaia the Dragon Champion in mind. So my effect for Gaia the Dragon Champion, it has this card cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects on it. So well, the idea was that if you traditionally fusion summon it, then you would use Cursor Dragon's effect on Gaia the Dragon Champion so that they can't tribute it. Makes it kaiju proof if we're talking premium, but if we're talking just standard, then it means that they can change of heart it, but they can't tribute it, and I mean they can soul exchange it if they want to, but there's no point because they won't be able to tribute it unless they get Cursor Dragon out of the grave. But then if you're just playing Cursor Dragon on its own, like that effect isn't worth a whole card, not at all. Probably isn't even worth half a card, but it has occasional uses. It ends up being you know, a decent little tacked on ability at the end, so that's pretty nice. Like I imagine that as being the curse, you know what I mean? It's like the curse that it leaves behind. But yeah, with this version, it's balanced, certainly balanced, but it's better than it was before, so that's cool. And then Gaia the Fierce Knight, this was the first card that I gave the condition of being able to summon it for 1 tribute, which I've given to a lot of level 7s since then. I think it just makes sense. Gaia is heavily understated. It's a level 7. Like, you would have to give it some effect for it to be able to be tributed in for 2, and you could give it a sort of Swift Gaia the Fierce Knight thing, but I think that would be too strong early on. I think this is fair enough, and the rest of its effect is, if this card is summoned, you can target one face-on monster on the field, change that target to face-down defense position, and once per turn, you can target one defense position monster on the field, destroy it. So it's certainly a flawed card. It's not a perfect card by any means, but the idea behind it was that I wanted it to be quite a heroic card. So what you can do is, if you're down 2 monsters, let's say they have 2 monsters and you have nothing, you can soul exchange, tribute in Gaia the Fierce Knight, set the other thing and pop it. Ends up being a +1 for you. Obviously the Gaia can't attack under soul exchange, but has that heroic comeback element to it, which I think fits with the card, but it doesn't really do much when you're ahead. Like, you'd have to tribute 2 to bring it in, and for 2 tributes it's a really weak card even with this effect. So I do like it for that, and then both of them go into Gaia the Dragon Champion, which with my effect sort of combines the two, but talk about that more at another time. The point is that, Gaia's good, Summon Skull's good, Curse of Dragon's good, which is what I wanted. But none of them are too strong. So Giant Soldier of Stone next. Once per turn you can send one rock type monster from your deck to the graveyard, draw 1 card. This card is actually one of the best cards, so let's see if I still have it. Yeah. So this was a a sort of power list that I did back when Legend of Blue Eyes was in its first patch. So when I say it was in its first patch, I mean that the first patch had 126 cards in the set. So the original Legend of Blue Eyes had 125. My patch 1 was 126, number 126 being Salamandra, because my version of Flame Swordsman equips Salamandra from a hand, deck or graveyard to it. So obviously I had to include Salamandra in the set. This just helped with us patching particular things, and as you can see they're all vanillas because it was before the custom card feature. As you can see, Giant Soldier of Stone is right up there. I had it under La Jin as one of the premier cards in the game, and it wasn't what we were expecting, to be honest, but Giant Soldier of Stone is really good. However, it isn't OP by any means. If you normal summon it and use its effect, it does float, but then it's only got 1300, which leaves it susceptible to being run over by pretty much everything. If you set it, then that leaves it susceptible to Battle Ox, Soul Exchange, in my second patch of Legend of Blue Eyes, or the 1.5 patch I should say. Where is it? Oh, Monster, that's why. Yeah, so I introduced a different version of Dark Piercing Light. So it's just sort of a budget nobleman across out, but it does have uses. Giant Soldier Stone is very vulnerable when it's set in defense, but then on the other hand, if you set it in defense, they might summon La Jin and attack into it, which ends up being very good for you. So yeah, Giant Soldier of Stone has been a very fair card in our opinion, and it helps Invigoration and the Earth strategies. They all sort of go together nicely, which is good because it deviates from the standard, Sangan sort of style, but they're still good cards. So Giant Soldier, we really do like this effect on it. One of my teammates suggested nerfing it because he said it might get out of hand. We'll have to see. I don't think it is out of hand. Like, there's so many ways to get rid of it. It's like, if you normal summon it, use its effect, it's really weak. But we'll see. Could just make it so that it's if it's summoned or flipped face up instead of once per turn. But I don't even mind it being a once per turn. There are other cards that gain multiple uses, like La Jin. Shouldn't have typed it so weirdly. Oh yeah, spell, that's what should just have it like that. La Jin, I know it seems like a one-time use card, but it isn't. There are a lot of ways to get synergistic interactions with it, so I don't think having Giant Soldier of Stone be once per turn is OP, but it's a good card. Then Destroyer Golem, complements Giant Soldier of Stone nicely. Decided to include this in Yugi's deck because it didn't make any sense to have it in Kaiba's deck. Again, good card, gives nice options for those strategies, so very happy with Destroyer Golem as well. The Magical Ghost. This is one of the more interesting cards. So before Magical Ghost, I guess we're talking about Dragon Zombie. And the reason why I gave Dragon Zombie that effect. So if it's in the grave or you control a spellcaster type monster, you can special summon it from your graveyard in defense position. And if you do, banish it when it leaves the field. Might seem like a really random effect. You're like, whoa, why should you give it that? That makes no sense. But if you see the original, like a lot of the cards, I base their effects on their original flavor text. Dragon Zombie has a dragon revived by sorcery in its flavor text. So I thought that would be pretty interesting, just to give it that. Obviously had it come out in defense position to balance it, otherwise it'd be insane. And the way that it plays out is that it's semi-balanced, because you have these crazy turns where it's like you'll summon a spellcaster and get 3 dragon zombies from your grave, but then you probably can't do anything with them then and there unless you have the ultimate offering and then the tribute summon thing to get out. You really do have to wait until a particular point, and it's easy to disrupt. Like if I summon a spellcaster and they trap hole it, it's like, oh great, can't do those plays now. Raigeki and Dark Hole are both in the game. It's got 0 defense. There's things like Komori Dragon, Mystic Clown that are able to capitalize off you having a bunch of 0 defense things. So it actually ends up being alright, but Magical Ghost is really cool. This is one of our preferred cards from the design. So its effect is when this card declares an attack, you can change the battle position of the attack target, then send 1 zombie type monster from your deck to the graveyard. It's so clutch. And it's a funny card because if you attack a face down defense position monster and use it, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know if it's going to be a Celtic or a Winged Dragon, and you're going to end up getting ran into. You don't know if it's a Giant Soldier, and you're like, wow, that's a plus. But its effect also works on other things as well, like it gets over Summon Skull, gets over Large Jind. I think it gets over Ryukishin Powered as well. Yeah, gets over Ryukishin Powered as well. So it's got a lot of uses, but its primary target is Dragon Zombie, and then in Metal Raiders you can send Armored Zombie and get a search if you want to. So yeah, ends up being a very fair sort of linchpin in the zombie strategy. Pretty good in our opinion. We really like this card as well. And so these two are sort of centerpiece to the Yami strategy if you want to invest into the Yami theme, which we like. Again, we like the fact that exists. Then you've got Ancient Elf, and to parallel Ancient Elf, I guess, we've got Master and Expert in the Kaiba deck. So Ancient Elf, spellcaster, if it's summoned, you special summon 1 elf token, which has got 400 attack, 800 defense, and is a spellcaster. For each spellcaster type monster you control, excluding tokens, then for this card, during your main phase, you contribute 1 monster you control. It gains 600 attack and defense until the end of the turn. While Master and Expert, I should change that to if, I guess, but it doesn't really matter. It's pretty much the same thing. So if it's summoned, you special summon 1 Expert token for each beast type monster you control, excluding tokens. Once per turn, you contribute 1 Expert token to increase the attack and defense of that card by 1000, and if you do, destroy it during your end phase. So Ancient Elf and Master and Expert, they're both sort of like Magic the Gathering sort of cards in terms of their design. They're not the sort of things that you would traditionally see in Yu-Gi-Oh! And they'd probably be really powerful in Premium just because links, you know, it's like two things for your links. But in terms of standard, they're very fair. I buffed the spellcasters to give most of their effects, you know, for each spellcaster type monster you control, just to help push that deck into being a thing, but it's a fairly menial change. They're both pretty good. Like with Ancient Elf, its flavor text is something like it gains power from the spirit of dead ghosts or something like that, so that was why I had the tribute 1 monster thing. Obviously, Master and Expert is meant to be Master and Expert, so you get the Expert token. But yeah, those two cards are pretty cool as well. Beast and Spellcaster. Beasts are more supported than Spellcaster, I guess, right now, but they're both good. And obviously, any Spellcaster enables the zombie package as well. And then you've got Mystical Elf. My original effect for Mystical Elf was basically just once per turn you can scry, which ended up being pretty bad. I gave it a like Defender the Magical Knight or something. Just a spell counter card that exists in the real game. So this has, when it's summoned or flipped face up, place one spell counter on it for each spellcaster type monster you control. Once per turn, if a spellcaster type monster on the field would be destroyed, you can remove one spell counter from this card for each of those monsters instead. So it's a bit better than, you know, like the once per turn, if this card would be destroyed by battle. It is not. Obviously, you know, it's a delicate elf backed by a backed by a mysterious power, tremendous defense, or whatever its flavor text is. So I thought this was pretty nice. Obviously, you can normal summon it in situations where you have a lot of spell casters, and then it will provide protection to the whole field. You can set it again, same with Giant Soldier of Stone. It's not gonna live through Battle Ox or Soul Exchange or Dark Piercing Light. But in most other situations, you know, like again, if they large in and attack into it, you're gonna flip it face up, get a token. It's useful, very useful. So yeah, good card. I see no reason to change it or anything right now. I think that it is good for what it is with this effect. And you've got Neo the Magic Swordsman, which is one of our favorite cards. I always thought Neo was a cool card, so I wanted to give it a cool effect, and that was exactly what we did. So when it's summoned, you place one spell counter on it for each spellcaster type monster you control. Gains 200 attack for each spell counter on it, and you can remove one spell counter from this card, then target one monster in the field, half that monster's attack. So, very solid. Gets over Blue Eyes. Very, very solid card. And the only thing that's really holding it back, I guess, is that it doesn't float. It doesn't +1, but and it doesn't, you know, fit into one of the searchable themes. But it really is a very solid card, and even if you just have it as a 1900 beat, sometimes, like, yeah, very solid. So Neo is a card that I'm very much a fan of. I think it's one of the more underrated cards in the set, but at the same time, it's not OP at all. Like, you're either going to use the effect to shrink something, run over it, then it's a 1700 BO, which is a very fair stat. You know, large ink can go over it. Or you're not going to use its effect, it will be a 1900, which is less easy, but then it's just a 1900 vanilla, really. And in certain situations, obviously, you can get stronger if you control more spellcasters, but that rewards you for investing into the spellcaster strategy, as all these cards do. So, yeah, very cool. Then Sorcerer of the Doomed. You do not discard to activate spell cards. If the effect of a spell card would discard a card from your hand, you do not discard. So, do you know Tribute to the Doomed? That was why I gave it this effect. And in practice, it ends up being pretty interesting. You can't abuse it with card destruction, by the way that both are worded, because card destruction has you draw the same number of cards, so if you discard nothing, you draw nothing. But it works with things like my version of Yami and Tribute to the Doomed, whether that be my version or not, other such cards. So, yeah, pretty fair card. It's like, whether or not there ends up being some broken interaction with it later on remains to be seen. It reads like one of those cards. This is the sort of card where if I were a player and not a game designer, I'd put it to the side and be like, yeah, we have to wait for this one, lads. This could be a this could be a game changer. But aside from that, it's very fair. 1450 is a good stat in terms of letting it get over the floaters, but it's not an OP stat. It doesn't float outside of its effect. Like, if you summon it and get to draw off Yami and not discard, that's arguably a float. But if you're playing a Yami based deck, you don't mind the discard most of the time anyway. So yeah, very fair. But the idea was that you could use it in sort of control strategies, I guess. Like you could use it in a weird sort of deck where, like, because Inexperienced Spy and Dispel, which are Mind Crush sort of cards in this iteration of the game, they have drawbacks where you discard if they don't work. So the idea was that, you know, you would summon this, use one of those spells, get to see their hand, and then every other one of those spells that you have ends up actually hitting. But yeah, that's for those who want to play with it. It's a fair card in my opinion, and pretty cool in terms of the lore. Then you got Beaver Warrior, and I gave Mystic Horseman the same effect as well. Just that both starter decks have one of these sorts of cards where, you know, once per turn, if it would be destroyed by battle, it's not, and it's fair enough. It's a fine effect, and nothing wrong with it. Mystic Horseman is the better of the two, just because beasts are more heavily supported in Legend of Blue Eyes, and its stats are better. But they're both fair. They're both good cards, and Mystic Horseman even has some standard playability. It's not the worst invigoration target, so yeah, pretty good. Beaver Warrior, yeah, because Beaver Warrior's like flavor is, you know, talking about how good its defense is. So yeah, fair enough. You know, once per turn, it's not going to be destroyed by battle. Pretty cool, and it's super relevant for my anime episode 1, but that's it's another story. And then Wall of Illusion, I just left it the same as it was. It was always a good card, so that's pretty cool. Man-Eater Bug, left it the same as always was. Good card. Sees play, actually, so that's pretty nice. I'm happy that that Man-Eater Bug has a place in this game. And then Trap Master, as I said, and it's the same with Arm Ninja as well. So Trap Master and Arm Ninja used to be flips, and I just gave them the same effect, but as ignition effects instead of flip effects. Trap Master ends up being, well, now that Remove Trap is a quick play, it means that Dark Magician is probably the most played card in the game right now if we're talking just the starter deck formats. Like, pretty much every deck can include Dark Magician just because every deck is running 3 Remove Trap, 3 Trap Hole, and 3 Ultimate Offering. So then it's like, well, why wouldn't you run at least 2 Dark Magician alongside that? You probably would. Which makes Trap Master less good. The fact that you can search it off Celtic Guardian is really strong. But outside of those situations, it's a very strong card. Like, if it's not hitting a Dark Magician, it's really good. And Armed Ninja, I don't know if I said in the last video, but obviously, like, I could have included Armed Ninja as well, because I don't have to put Trap Master in both decks. It makes sense to put Armed Ninja in one deck and Trap Master in another deck. Again, it's sort of poetic. They what's the word? They juxtapose each other. One deck having the Spell Destroyer and one deck having the Trap Destroyer. The reason why I haven't done that for now is because in the starter deck format, there's no reason, from a competitive point of view, there's no reason not to set all your spells alongside the traps, because all the trap removal in Trap Master and Remove Trap, they're conditional, so if they hit a spell, they'll whiff. Moreover, there's no spell removal, or there's nothing that can pop spells on the field, and there are cards that can interact with cards in the hand. So in Kaiba's deck, it's Sword Stalker that discards a random card, which was just to sort of parallel summon Skull. So there's no reason not to set all the spells, which I quite like. And if I introduced Armed Ninja, then that would change that. While now, if Armed Ninja comes in like Legend of Blue Eyes or something, then that gives Armed Ninja a use where it might not otherwise have a use. But, you know, we can wait and see with that. Maybe it would still be worth including Armed Ninja, just because no one would play Armed Ninja at first, and then people would realize, okay, set all your spells, and then people would be like, okay, well, Armed Ninja is now quite good because it might hit a spell. So we'll see. Maybe I'll include Armed Ninja, and if I were to include Armed Ninja, I'd include it in Yugi's deck, I think. But yeah, this version of Trap Master is a lot better. Not quite as strong as it was before the the 1.5 patch where we made remove trap or quick play, but still very good. Then block attack, talked about this quite extensively. This is really the one change that we've made as far as the cards that are in both decks. And yeah, it was just done to help influence the Starter Deck format a bit. We found it was a bit too linear, but the quick play block attack is so good. And then we've got Book of the Secret Arts, which originally had a much different effect, but I've changed it. I'll talk about Invigoration actually, because Invigoration was sort of the flag bearer in terms of the equips. So this is the same as its effect always was, as in like from patch 1 this was its effect. And what we found was that it made decks playable, like it made Earth.deck playable when it otherwise wouldn't have been. Because then, you know, like Giant Soldier is relatively understated, Celtic Guardian is relatively understated, but when they go up to 2k and 2-1 respectively, they're no longer understated, and when they swing over something and draw a card, even if they're going to Fisher it, you've still gained the card. So, well, that taught us that the equip spells need to float, or provide some sort of initiative in order for them to be good. Then going back to Book of Secret Arts, I think this effect makes sense within the lore of what spellcasters are all about, and Book of Secret Arts, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, the secret art of adding spells from your graveyard to your hand. Foreshadows Magician of Faith. And an effect such as this, again, is more doable in my iteration of the game, because the most powerful spells have the you can only activate 1 per duel clause on them. So the things that you can get off the equip spells aren't as good. But yeah, so as you can see, equip only to a spellcaster type monster, it gains 500 attack and defense, and if it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can target one spell card in your grave, add it to your hand. Very good, but not OP, and pretty much on the same. Well, it's better than Invigoration. Obviously, adding a spell from your grave to your hand is better than drawing a card, but it's much more heavily restricted, and it only applies to spellcasters, and you know, the opponent can just block attack or something, and it's not going to go through. So pretty balanced card overall. Then card destruction, just the same, but I gave it the you can only activate 1 per duel clause, which I think is fair enough. Some decks might still run more than one of it, but it's fine. Change of Heart, just the same as it always was, but you can only activate 1 per duel. Fisher, same as it always was. Didn't make it a quick play, obviously, it would be, be too strong. Last Will. Okay, so Last Will was one of the ones that I changed, one of the spells that I changed actually, and I changed Pot of Greed as well. So Last Will, in its original iteration, is you know, if a monster on your side of the field was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can special summon a monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck. I just thought that was too strong. Like, with this effect, it's still a very good effect because you get to tutor any 1500 or less from your deck. Like, that's strong, and the longer the game goes on, the stronger it gets. So strong. But obviously it's inhibited by the fact that the card comes out during your end phase. I really like it with this redesign, and it was one of the like the normal trap ultimate offering, we did this like straight away and just preferred it for what it was. It would be too strong if you could just main phase special summon a monster from your deck. Too strong. That means you're just going to tribute summon something, and it's ridiculous to be like, oh, I'd summon a monster, you trap hole, I lost will into something, and yeah, no bueno. But with this effect, it's almost balanced. Well, it is pretty balanced actually, because you forfeit initiative, but you get any monster from your deck, and you know, it helps with things like Ultimate Offering in their turn and stuff like that. So this version of Last Will is fine, and obviously you can only activate 1 per duel, because yeah. Then Monster Reborn is the same. Oh yeah, so for Last Will I changed Pot of Greed as well. So my version of Pot of Greed is draw 2 cards, then your opponent draws 1 card. You can only activate 1 Pot of Greed per duel. The reason why that I did that, so there were 2 versions of Pot of Greed that I was considering, neither being the original, because The original is just too asymmetric, even as a one-off. I didn't want a card that is both that generic and that asymmetrical. There's no reason not to play Pot of Greed, and I mean that both in terms of including it in your deck and both in terms of if you draw it, activating it. Talking about the original. So the redesign was either going to be this effect or it was going to be, you know, just like a weaker Graceful Charity. So just like draw 2 and banish 1, which would make sense, and that would almost be kind of fitting because a lot of those cards do exist. You have things like Allure of Darkness, Destiny Draw, Cards of Consonance, etc. There are plenty of those sorts of cards in the game, so just having Pot of Greed be the generic one of them, I think would be kind of fair. I prefer this one though from a competitive standpoint because this makes the card a lot more interesting. Even when it's draw 2, banish 1, there's never going to be a situation where you don't play it. While with this one, there are going to be situations where you don't play it. You might not include it in your deck, and you might not activate it if you do have it. You might not want to give your opponent the card in certain situations. So I just prefer this version of it. I think it's a lot better, and it still fits with the lore of it being, you know, Pot of Greed, but it makes it more of a I'm gonna say mind game, but you have to think about it. It makes it more of a complex situation, which I think is pretty cool. I like that. Then Reborn is the same. Remove Trap is the same, but a quick play, which makes it a lot better. Soul Exchange recently made it a quick play, again, so it can interact with Ultimate Offering, and again, not being able to conduct your battle phase is too heavy a cost. I'm going to tweak Flute to have that change as well. And Sword of Dark Destruction, increase the attack of the equipped monster by 700. If this card is destroyed, you can discard one card, set this card on your side of the field. Actually not as bad as I thought it was, particularly when it comes to just playing the 2 starter decks together. Obviously in Standard it's not as good as things like Invigoration and my version of Salamander and stuff like that. But this is still pretty good, and it does have uses, particularly in the decks where you're using it, which will be like the sort of Yami based strategies. Also, you don't have to discard if you have Sorcerer of the Doomed on the field, but that's another thing. In the sort of just starters versus starters situation, it's actually a good card, which I don't mind. I quite like the fact that that's the case. So originally I was thinking, you know, I might have to improve it, but so far I don't mind it as it is. I think that it's pretty cool. Like, I could tack another effect onto it, so it's like if the equipped monster destroys a monster by battle, you can send one dark monster from your deck to the grave, but for now I'm not sure it needs that. I think that it's alright, but we'll see. That could be in the 2.0 patch. Need some more feedback on that. And then Yami, the strong card. While only you control a face-up fiend, zombie, or spellcaster type monster, this card gains the following effect. Once per turn you can draw a card, and if you do, discard a card. So all of my field spells have this. Also, in my version of Yu-Gi-Oh, you can only have 1 field spell because it's stupid if you can have 2. Just makes it a continuous spell. So, you know, your field spells can remove their field spells, which I like. I think it makes the cards more interesting. And then this effect is pretty good. It's probably the best field spell in the game as it is right now, with the other ones being I can't look them up by field spells. That's annoying. Let's see. There's Sogen in Kaiba's one. There's There's Mountain. There's Forest is really good as well. Forest is insane, but Forest isn't as good for now. Like, it isn't as good in just the Legend of Blue Eyes. Like, this would be banned in Premium or something. Like, it would be limited in Premium as soon as it's introduced. So strong. But yeah, Yami's pretty good. You know, draw 1, discard 1. If you have Sorcerer of the Doomed up, then it's just draw 1. But Sorcerer of the Doomed is not that good. outside of that, Yami opens up a lot of strategies, and it's just a nice card. It gives you more things to do, which helps when the game is a bit stale like this. But other than that, you know, it's just gates of the Dark World, but for everything. So it's pretty good. And then for the traps, reinforcements, I like this version of it. So yeah, after this card's activation, it remains face up on the field, but you must destroy it during the end phase. While face up on the field, increase the attackable face up monsters you control by 500. So again, more of a Magic the Gathering style of card. Encourages players to go wide in certain situations. And in the next set, you get another card that encourages people to go wide. So we'll see. We'll see if wide.deck ends up being a thing. Because it's never really happened in Yu-Gi-Oh before, and it's something that does happen in other games. But as far as, you know, just obviously it's an improvement on the original, but that goes without saying. All of these cards are improvements on the original, except for the ones that are the same as the original, or the power spells. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I like it. And, you know, you can chain remove trap and destroy it, and then you don't get a boost. But you can use it in the damage step, so there'd never be any reason to do that, really. It's pretty good. Not bad. Actually makes it playable when it otherwise wouldn't be. And Castle Walls is just the same, but obviously because they're in defense, you can increase the amount of defense, which actually ends up being relevant in some situations. Do I have that deck that Karakuri Komachi made? Yeah, Rock Fairy combo. So it actually ends up being relevant. This was a deck that one of my friends made when we were initially play testing the very first iteration of Legend of Blue Eyes, and the idea was that you would buff up the defense and then eventually use my version of Reverse Trap to swap them. It was actually pretty cool, and it wasn't something that I'd thought of, but yeah, this version of Castle Walls is an improvement. So not bad, not quite good enough for the main deck, but still. And then my version of Reverse Trap swapped the attack and defense of all monsters on the field. So my version of Shield and Sword is a quick play. So the way that I differentiated the two was that Reverse Trap was permanent, while Shield and Sword was just until the end phase. So the permanent Reverse Trap is actually pretty interesting, and it opens up other strategies because some cards in this game do have really high defense, and the fact that it's permanent is yeah, super strong. But we'll see how that goes. I quite like it. I don't really mind it being that way. I think that it's alright. Punishes certain cards and is less effective against others, so yeah, I like it. Trap Hole, same as always. Could make it so that it's just when a monster's summoned, but I like it with this because then in the Legend of Blue Eyes meta, it gives people a reason to play fusions. Like the fact that the fusions dodge Trap Hole is pretty much the reason why Skull Servant.deck is a thing, and those that are confused by this, on Skull Servant you can include as many copies of this card in your deck as you like, but obviously I can't do that on DN, so I have the Black Wings to represent that card. And there's a fusion in Legend of Blue Eyes that's, you know, you can send any number of Skull Servant from your deck to the graveyard and it gains 300 attack for each. All of these can be used as the other fusion material, so if the Flame Ghost could be trap hold, then this deck would be in a lot of trouble. The fact that that's not the case, you know, I quite like that. So I don't mind trap hold being as it is, but obviously can buff it if we ever need to. Yeah, my version of two-pronged attack, sick. So yeah, this is still an inherent -1, but it's a much better -1. I think the previous one wasn't even a -1, it was a -2, right? You popped 2 of your own things and one of their things, and then you lost the two-pronged attack. So you lost 3 cards and they lost 1. So bad. This one is a bit better. Target 1 monster you control and 2 monsters your opponent controls, destroy them, then discard 1 card. So it's a 3 for 2, but you get to control the card that you discard, so there's a lot of things that you don't mind discarding. Even just as a 3 for 2 where it's a -1, it's a quick, well, you can use it at any time, that's what I meant by it. It's a quick trap, like you can just use it whenever, so it's good. it's actually good, and it's good in some situations. You know, if you use it and pop one of your floaters, then it's a 2 for 2 essentially, which pretty good. But yeah, I'm happy with with this version of two-pronged attack. I think it's pretty sweet. Then normal trap ultimate offering. Obviously, it's the business. I think that my version of Wabaku is the same, except I have it so that you take no damage rather than you take no battle damage. Just in case there are some effect monsters later that deal burn damage, then you can bring in this version of Wabaku and you don't take burn damage from them. It makes it sort of multi-purpose, because really the way that it functions in this version of the game is to stop particular OTKs. So something that we're seeing with the Legend of Blue Eyes format is that decks, well, the fusion decks, I'm not just going to say Skull Servant, they sort of necessitate Wabaku in the side, because otherwise there's not much that you can do about them. They dodge trap hole. So, you know, this is still useful. Like, you could even main it in just good cards, .deck sort of thing. The fact that it protects from destruction from battle is really useful. But, yeah, it's good. This is the same card it's always been, really. Then for the side deck, you got Dying Keto, the Cure Master. So originally this was just gain 2k, but I thought I'd buff it. This makes it more playable. It makes it really slow, and it's like, well, fine. If you're playing 3 Dying Keto, you deserve to be able to, you know, search them out and use 1 per turn and slowly gain life. It makes alright as a side strategy against burn. Like, it doesn't punish burn too much because it's a slow 1k per turn, but I don't mind that. I think it sort of works within the lore of the card, within the way that it's designed. And makes an otherwise not very good card, you know, almost good. Like, you can at least side it, which is pretty cool. Then this version of Ansatsu, it's basically a Mind Crush, but you have to tribute summon it, which is fair enough because you have to tribute summon it. But yeah, like it or not, a lot sneaky little ninja assassin is going to come in and Mind Crush you out the way. It's sick. Baron of the Fiend Sword. So if you have more cards in your hand than your opponent, increase the attack and defense of this card by 500. If you have less cards in your hand than your opponent, reduce this card's attack and defense by 500. The idea sort of being that, I don't know, it just always struck me as a corrupt Judge Man sort of card. So it's like, yeah, when you're wealthy, so to speak, it's stronger, but when you're less wealthy, it's weaker. And it actually does have some uses, you know, hitting 2050 is a relevant stat line, so good card. And particularly in this meta, again, when everyone's setting their spells as well, it's pretty good. Then Claw Reacher. I mean, the idea with the Fiends in general was that they all had, like, sort of side deck utility and uses. So once per turn, you can declare 1 card type, monster, spell, or trap, and I don't know if I'll need to put Deck Master into that at some point, but for now, you can just have it as that. You can declare 1 card type, monster, spell, or trap. Select 1 random card from your opponent's hand, and if it is the declared type, the selected card is destroyed. Otherwise, destroy this card. Pretty good. Nothing spectacular, but a useful card. And again, has uses in this format because, again, most people will be setting their spells reflexively. So, pretty good. Has uses. And then Dome of the Angel of Silence. Neither player can special summon monsters if this card is removed from the field. Draw 1 card. And this bit is because all my fairies, or most of my fairies, have, if this card is tributed, draw 1 card. Sort of the little theme of the fairies that I'm working with. Neither player can special summon monsters, I think is cool. Works with the lore of the card. But this bit helps because she's heavily understated, and fairies don't exactly have overt synergies, like you can't search things and stuff like that. So she could see play when Witch of the Black Forest comes out. Obviously she helps against particular decks, can use it against fusions and stuff like that, but yeah, not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad because its stats are so weak. Then Great White, I'm probably going to buff this card at some point just to have it fit in with the water strats, because water.deck is something that is a thing, albeit not in the Legend of Blue Eyes meta, but as time goes on it gets better. Ooh, typo, I need to change that. But yeah, for now it's still alright, I guess. Certainly in the starter deck context, so it inflicts piercing damage, and when it inflicts battle damage, gain 400 attack. I might have it so that it's like when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, send one water monster from your deck to the graveyard and then gain 400 attack, because then that actually provides use to the water deck. But yeah, it will get buffed. The Mammoth Graveyard, this one's cool. So this was the first hand trap I did, and the reason why is that the original Mammoth Graveyard says something like it protects its graveyard buddies or something. A mammoth that protects the grave of its pack and is absolutely merciless when facing grave robbers. So that's why I gave it that effect, because, you know, if they're going to try and monster reborn it, then it's absolutely merciless in defending that. So pretty good. Again, premium players would find use for it. And in standard it's okay and might have uses later on, but for now it's fairly tame, so it's alright, it's a nice option. Then Man-Eating Treasure Chest. Target one monster on the field, banish that target, and if you do, banish this card. So the idea is that if they attack it and it destroys Man-Eating Treasure Chest by battle, it will still banish the thing that attacked it, so it's a slight upgrade on Man-Eater Bug in that sense. But Man-Eater Bug has, well, obviously Man-Eater Bug doesn't kill itself, so you can flip the Man-Eater Bug, pop their thing, which you can't do with this. So I didn't want it to be straight up better than Man-Eater Bug, because Man-Eater Bug is a pretty cool card. It can be sometimes, but it's a fiend, so you've got uses for it there. Then Silver Fang, oh man, I like Silver Fang. The idea with Silver Fang was that, you know, the whole lone wolf sort of thing. So if this card is the only monster you control, it cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects, and this card gains 200 attack and defense for each beast type monster in your grave. Not bad, not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good in some cases, so I might buff it so it's 300 attack and defense, but we'll see. I'm not sure it's needed right now. But yeah, it's pretty good. Then the Stern Mystic has the same effect as its original card. Wicked Worm Beast has the same effect as its original card as well, just because they both have comically useless effects, so I thought it'd be fine to have that. And like, if I were to reboot this game, I would give every card flavor text, including spells, traps, and effect monsters. So for this one, because its effect is, you know, basically just check all face down cards, its flavor text would be some things are best left unchanged. And then whoa, it's a meta reference to the card itself, because I haven't changed it. But yeah, I just left those two as is, because they're funny. You don't need to change everything. Then Witty Phantom. Once per turn, you can target one set card your opponent controls. That set card cannot be activated or flip summoned until your opponent's next end phase. I might add Tributed to that as well, because then it actually gives it more of a use. But yeah, as you can see with some of the Fiend cards, they're just sort of, you know, utility, tricky effects that are useful in some situations, which is what I wanted. And then Dragon Capture Jar. Didn't put it in the main deck because it's not useful if two Yugi decks are playing each other, but obviously encapsulates what side decking is all about, so it's a cool inclusion in the side. Change all face-up Dragon-type monsters on the field to defense position. Also, when a Dragon-type monster is summoned, it is changed to defense position. Dragon-type monsters cannot change their battle positions, including those that are face down. I think that's fair enough. I didn't want to go too overboard with it and have it negate effects. The idea was that if you have just the starter deck format, like, Dragon Capture Jar is really difficult for for Dragon.deck to deal with. But obviously when Trihorn comes out, it just clears it straight away. So yeah, I'm fine with it as it is. It's a bit better than the original, but it's not OP, and I don't want to be too harsh on dragons because they're the weakest of the top decks right now. So yeah, that's it for Starter Deck Yugi. Then Starter Deck Kaiba. Again, I've gone over Blue Eyes, Lajin, Battleox, and Ryukishin. Got Komori Dragon. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon one dragon-type monster with 1500 less attack from your deck. I think having it have the sends it to the graveyard thing is fair enough. This one doesn't have that. Yeah. Alright, so that's cool. Nice little buff for Mystic Clown. But yeah, like I like these sorts of effects for it. Because I could have had it be like when it's destroyed by battle, you special summon a dragon from your deck, but it's obviously more aggressive. I think it makes sense. Funnily, like Komori Dragon was used by Yugi more than Kaiba in the anime, so it's a bit of a weird inclusion in Kaiba's deck, but we'll forgive it. Kaiba's deck is all about the dragons and all about the power, but um, yeah, it punishes decks that rely too heavily on the floaters and can afford you positive tempo as such. You know, if you're summoning this, running over a Celtic, a Feral, or a Winged, they'll get the search, but then you'll be able to get a dragon from your deck, and you've capitalized on that. You've accelerated the tempo nicely, so it's pretty cool. That was what I had in mind when I designed it, and it obviously opens up Blue Eyes and works with Trihorned as well, so it's a nice little glue card for the Legend of Blue Eyes Dragon decks, which is nice. Then you've got Mystic Clown. Similar effect to Komori Dragon. Obviously it only gets clowns, but doesn't have to send the thing to the grave, which is alright. Essentially it gives fiends a way to punish the floaters as well, but it's not as good as Komori Dragon, because Komori Dragon can get Winged Dragon or in Legend of Blue Eyes Fairy Dragon from the deck, and then you contribute summon into a Blue Eyes or a Trihorned, and that's a lot of pressure just off one card alone. While with Mystic Clown, it's less that. Obviously, it has uses in the themed clown deck, which exists from Metal Raiders onwards, but otherwise it's just a way for fiends to apply pressure against the flows. Then for Kaiba's tribute summons, you got Judge Man. I basically just put Kaiser Colosseum's effect on it, which I think is cool. It might not have uses in standard straight away. In fact, it probably doesn't, but it's the sort of card that would have use one day, and maybe it would have use in Yu-Gi-Oh's in the premium meta, but I don't know. I think it's a fair enough effect for it. It doesn't need to be, you know, OP or anything. It's a fine effect. Wow, someone did that. That's a Hearthstone card. Yeah, that's funny. Wow, didn't see that. All right. Then Sword Stalker. Just again, it's a parallel to Summon Skull. Arguably a stronger effect, but it's not as strong stat-wise, and yeah, pretty good. It's nothing amazing, but it is relevant, searchable off Celtic Guardian. So is Judge Man, but Judge Man is, well, it doesn't float, and it has more of a floodgate effect. Then Gyakute no Megami. So this card is really pretty good, actually. If it's tributed, draw a card. Again, it's fairy, has the little fairy thing on it. And once per turn during either player's turn, you can target a monster in the field, change its battle position. Originally, it wasn't during either player's turn. I gave it the either player's turn to make it a bit more playable. As you know, they can all just die to Fisher, they can die to anything. At least with this, you know, if they soul exchange it or change of heart and then tribute it, you'll get a draw off it. Which is fair enough, but that's more to do with the fairies than it is to do with this card. The effect is good, like, the effect is very useful for tempo and things like that, and you can use it on your own monsters as well, so if you've got flip effects or something. It has uses, but I don't think it's OP by any stretch. It's just a solid old monster, so yep, it's pretty good. It's what I wanted. Then for the other ones, Hitatsumi Giant. When this card battles, you can double its attack and defense, and if you do destroy it during the end phase, makes it pretty good when it's otherwise completely useless. It runs over like everything. And if you equip it with Invigoration, then it's 3,800 for that battle. Like, that's pretty good. But then it dies during the end phase. The idea with it dying during the end phase was that you could use it during the opponent's turn. Like, they might attack into it, you use its effect, and then before the battle phase ends, you use Ultimate Offering. But yeah, it's a pretty alright card. I think that, you know, there would be combos around it, you know, people trying to, because, let me, yeah, it's a Beast Warrior, isn't it? So it works with my redesign of Mystical Moon. Look at that, during your turn double its attack and defense. So if you equipped this to this, then that would be 4,800 during your turn. Wow, that's pretty clutch. But then that's a 2-card combo and there's plenty of stuff that thwarts it, so fair enough. Like, the card is actually decent when otherwise it was complete trash, which is fair enough for me. Then this version of Ryukishin, when it's destroyed by battle, you can special summon up to 1 Ryukishin powered from your deck. It's cute, I like that lore, and the card is actually useful in some situations because you can search it off Fairlimp and stuff like that, but being able to tutor one of these from your deck is very strong in some situations. Then Mystic Horseman, so Beaver Warrior, same effect. Slightly better because it's a beast, and beasts are more supported, but yeah. Then Master and Expert, spoken about that again. The excluding tokens thing was because of Scapegoat. I didn't want some mad Scapegoat deck with Master and Expert layer. Ogre of the Black Shadow was actually better than we thought it would be, so gains 200 attack for each monster in your graveyard, and at the end of your battle phase, changes card's battle position. That could very well be a Mystical Moon deck in Legend of Blue Eyes, which would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind that, because I only gave it this effect recently. It was a recent buff. Damn, like, Ogre can get to stupid amounts. It's really when Ogre's with Sogen. So Sogen is Kaiba's field spell, and I just gave it like a Burden of the Mighty sort of effect. But Burden of the Mighty ends up being really strong in this sort of simplified meta game. You know, like it turns Large In into 1400, which is useless, absolutely useless. So when this goes to defense, if you have a Sogen up, it's actually pretty difficult to get over. But yeah, it's a pretty strong card. It's not a super strong card. In some decks you'll run it as a finisher, but yeah, it's pretty good. Then Kojikosi and Rogue Doll, I gave them these effects because in the flavor text they'd specify. This one would be like it's good against Earths, and this one would be like it's good against Darks, and I've got Taihone in there as well. Not in the decks, I think this is, yeah, Legend of Blue Eyes, because in this card's flavor text it would it would specify being good against Wind as well. So I just gave all of them, you know, like a Kinetic Soldier sort of effect, and it's pretty good, you know. Kojikosi is searchable with Celtic Guardian. Like, you're probably going to side 3 of both of these in the Starter Deck meta. There's no reason why not. This helps against the Fiend decks, the Yami decks. This helps against the Earth decks. So, good stuff. Impale Beast, when it's destroyed by battle, special summon 1 beast type monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck in face down defense position. Slight differentiation from Destroyer Golem specials it in face up. Destroyer Golem summoning them in face up means that you can, you know, use Giant Soldier's effect while in defense position. While having this means that you can get, you know, your Hain, but not just your Hain. Most of the beasts tend to do better being in face down, so yep, fair enough. Another good card, very influential card in the Legend of Blue Eyes 1.0. I don't know if it will be as influential in the 1.5 patch, but yeah, beasts were good in that deck. Not like tier 1, but still definitely good. Hain is the same as it always was, but it has Pale Beast to get it now, so pretty good. Dark Assailant. When this card is destroyed by battle, you can target a monster in the field, destroy that target. Very sort of standard card. Not too much, not too much going on with it. Gets ripped by battle locks. And Urabi, this is another one that I'm going to change, similar to Great White, to give it an effect that helps its deck more. Dinosaurs are less clear as a deck type than water at this stage. Like, I know what the waters do and what I want to do with them. The dinosaurs are less clear. But once that is clear, I'll amend Urabi. I mean, I'll amend it anyway to take off the until the end of the turn thing. I don't think that that's necessary, but for now it's alright. Could maybe swap it with one of the cards. Yeah, probably swap it with Rude Kaiser actually, and put Urabi in the side. That makes sense. Should I do that? Yeah, but I won't do that right now. Then Trapmaster, already discussed that. Yeah, Lord of D and Flute. So I'm gonna buff Lord of D and Flute as I discussed in the previous one, but I'll do that at the very end. For now, they just, I mean, I'll change that so it's only the special summon monsters that can't attack. But for now, I'll leave it as it is. And then once Metal Raiders is done and we've explored the Metal Raiders format a bit more, I'll tweak Lord of D, because I want Flute.deck to be a thing in both of those metas, but it will get power crept out, so we'll see. But Lord of D and Flute won't be this way forever. It'll be one of the last things that I tweak. And Lord of D is one of the reasons why I didn't want to give spellcasters their own tutor. But yeah, it wouldn't really make sense to make Lord of D that card for spellcasters. Then we've got Dark Energy, equip only to a Fiend type monster you control, increase the attack and defense of the equipped monster by 500 during either player's turn. You contribute the equipped monster, draw one card, then inflict 500 damage to your opponent's life points. So, you know, you equip it to a Fiend, it will give it the 500, which is relevant, you know, turns Largent into a 2-3, very useful. And particularly if Invigoration decks are common, then the Fiend decks might main deck a couple of these just to, help with the stat thresholds. And then if they have removal or something like Soul Exchange, you can chain the effect of Dark Energy, sack it, draw a card, burn for a bit. So it's pretty good. It wasn't a quick effect before, because I figured, you know, like you could use it with Sangan and stuff like that, but it's a bit weak if you're just using it with Sangan. Sangan's good anyway, so I felt like giving it that quick effect was alright and made it a bit better than it would have been otherwise. Fish is the same, Invigoration I've talked about, Reborn I've talked about, Pot of Greed I've talked about, Raigeki I've talked about, Remove Trap I've talked about, Sogen. I buffed all the field spells, but Sogen always had this effect, and it's one of the ones that I didn't want to change. I actually quite like it. I like it with this effect, it's alright, like it helps. You know, if you're playing warrior.deck, like Warrior Toolbox, it helps. If you're playing Invigoration.deck, it helps. And again, the fact that the field spells remove each other means that in situations like, because Yami.deck obviously relies pretty heavily on Yami, you'll side things like Sogen to remove it, so it's pretty good. I don't mind it having that ability. Soul Exchange, Stop Defense. Stop Defense is actually pretty interesting. It opens up certain kinds of decks, so this'll be a thing. Obviously there'll be more flip effects as the game goes on, so the fact that Stop Defense enables them is pretty cool. I'm actually quite a fan of that, but we'll have to see how that goes. The jars aren't as good as they originally are, obviously. I've put a nice little nerf on them, so but yeah, the fact that this enables them is nice. Block Attack is a really sort of generic card as a quick play, I mean. Stop Defense less so, but the fact that it enables things like Flip.deck to be a thing is it's pretty nice. Yeah, Flute I'll change, Reinforcements, talked about all of them. Then Ukazi as a nice little counterpart to Dying Keto, so it's like none of them, yeah, that one's mine. So it's like, okay, well, if I had Ukazi be able to add one from the deck to the hand, it'd be too strong. I like this. It really parallels Dying Keto in a way, because Dying Keto is slow. It's like you'll activate one, search another one, next time activate one, search another one, next time activate one. While with this, it's a lot more like you activate it, and then it's up to you whether you choose to send more to essentially turn it into a 2k burn spell, but it's one use only, or to have them spread out if you want to draw into another Ukazi later or something. I think it's pretty good, so I don't mind it having this text. And then the thing with like the gain life cards and the deal damage cards is that if they're too much, I can amend them and tweak them. But I did want to improve all of them, so we'll see if burn ends up being a thing. We'll see if the other decks end up being a thing. But I like this design on Ukazi. And similar, like Ancient Telescope has the same effect as far as look at the top 5 cards of either player's deck. So it lets you scry 5 from either player, which is pretty insane. And then, oh, it's not quite scry, but it's almost scry. Yeah, I just gave it this, so if it was sent to the graveyard this turn during the end phase, you can add 1 Ancient Telescope from your deck to your hand. Makes it almost playable, but still probably isn't. Same with that in Keto, same with Ukazi. So, yeah, I like the redesign on Ancient Telescope. It's a bit better. D-Spell and Inexperienced Spy, I talked about more in the last one. Yeah, I think D-Spell is fine as this. I don't mind the fact that it doesn't pop things on the field. It's you know, it's pretty much irrelevant. It's going to do that. Like, Remove Trap is much more relevant in that sense, being able to pop traps. But yeah, I like D-Spell with this. Then you got D-Human. Gains 300 attack for each dragon type monster in your grave. Pretty good, actually. Cards with this sort of effect are pretty good. Originally it was 400 attack. It was like, wow. If you've got 2 dragons in the grave, that's a 2100 beat. That's pretty good. While as it is now, it's a 19 when you have 2 in the grave. Pretty good. I think, like, because I am, well, 5-headed would come out in the special set. So would it be too strong if it gains 400? I don't know, because you do have to sort of mix synergies. It's searchable off Celtic Guardian, but does that really matter as far as it being 400 attack or 300 attack? I don't know, but I future-proofed it, I guess, by making it 300 attack, so we'll see. And it's still pretty good. Like, again, you get 2 dragons in the grave, and it's 19. That's solid. Such cards are pretty good in this environment. So, yep, D-Human is alright. I quite like that law. Dark Titan of Terror. Start the damage step with this card. Attack the face down defense position monster. Return that monster to its owner's hand. Pretty good. Another techie side deck fiend. Mysterious Puppeteer. When a monster with 1500 or less attack other than this card is normal or special, to change that target to face down defense position, must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. This was the first card that I errated, actually. I had to add the other than this card because otherwise, you know, it would summon and set itself. But yep, again, another sort of cool side decky sort of effect. It's not bad. Rude Kaiser. When this card is summoned, double its attack until the end of the turn. And you know what? Wow, Mystical Moon deck. Got Rude Kaiser and you've got Mystical Moon. Wow. so the Mystical Moon stuff is just all in, it seems, man. You go Rude Kaiser, Mystical Moon, that's 7,200 for 2 cards. But again, it's so susceptible. Like, anything outside. Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, just Rude Kaiser for its original effect actually makes it kind of playable. But yeah, not bad. Mystical Moon though, wow. Oh yeah, that shouldn't be a beast type monster. Oh yeah, no, maybe. Oh, I don't know. Because originally the card only equipped to a beast warrior, but then it's like, well, in the anime it was used with Silver Fang, which is a beast. So weird. But yeah, whatever. Maybe instead of during your opponent's turn halve it, it's like during your opponent's turn destroy it, but they're basically the same thing. Yeah, Rude Kaiser, wow. Wowee. That's a powerful interaction. Skull Red Bird, when this card, when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, sends to the grave, you can target 1 card in the field, return that card to its owner's hand. Pretty good. That's sort of a winged beast toolbox. Why is that up? I swear that was me only. Is that my one? Yeah. So this, yeah, obviously Harpy Lady is the winged beast searcher. So winged beast toolboxing does become a thing. And it's alright for that. It's not bad. Then Terror the Terrible is actually pretty interesting. It's not called Dark King of the Abyss. What's it called? Yeah, it is called that. So, Terror the Terrible, if it sends to the graveyard, you can discard 1 card, draw 1 card. There's a card in Legend of Blue Eyes which almost has the same effect, except it banishes itself, but you get to draw first. So, you know, both kind of work with the Yami sort of theme. Can maybe play an Exodia sort of deck with both of these, who knows, but yeah, it's pretty good. Then, oh wow, that's interesting. Oh, you can build Raijin High on DN, that's so sick. Alright, I'll do that on a different occasion, because that's really easy to do. That doesn't take much time at all. That'll just take a video to explain. It's sick. No Wicked Worm Beast, just the same as it always was. Maybe I could have it so that it's like, return this card and any cards equipped to it. Probably make it better. Probably make it actually playable, actually. I said actually there twice. Because then you could use it with Invigoration once you get the Invigoration back. Yeah, that's probably better, actually. So, yeah, probably change that. Then Unknown Warrior Fiend, while this card is equipped with an equipped spell card, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that monster before damage calculation. If you do, destroy one equipped spell card in the field. Not bad. Not bad. I might change that to then, just so that if you equip it with something and attack an opponent's thing that's equipped to something, or, I mean, like, if the opponent has a monster equipped with an equipped spell, you can attack into a different monster, pop their monster, and then pop their equipped spell, or with Flame Swordsman and stuff like that. It makes it better outing that, so I'll probably change that. But it's an alright card, I guess, just by design. I might tweak it. And Just Desserts is exactly the same as it always was, so yeah, those are the two starter decks. Again, literally just SDK 0, and then you can find all the Starter Deck Kaiba ones, and SDY 0, and you find all the Yugi ones. The only exceptions being Stop Defense, Block Attack, Pot of Greed, and Raigeki. For now, I'll change the code on those later. I'm just going to finish doing Metal Raiders, and then I can decide which of the cards from both of the decks I want to be reprinted in Legend of Blue Eyes. Because like you see here, this comes out in Metal Raiders. It's a bit innocuous, actually, for this to be in Metal Raiders. It's so weird. So I'll probably swap some of the things that are in Metal Raiders with some of the things from Legend of Blue Eyes, and then decide for some things, like, obviously, Blue Eyes, you're going to have it in Legend of Blue Eyes as well. Itatsumi Giant, maybe, because I'm not going to say it's iconic, but it's fairly iconic. Mystic Horseman, probably not. I know that it's in Metal Raiders, because Rapid Horseman is in Metal Raiders, but, I mean, Battleox is a Starter Deck exclusive, so doesn't really make much sense. Kaji Kasi, maybe I could just put it in Joey's Starter Deck instead, or something like that. Like Rogue Doll is in Pegasus is one. It's really weird, Rogue Doll being in Pegasus is one. Pale Beast, Metal Raiders, do you need that? Hane, do you need that in Legend of Blue Eyes? Certainly don't need Urabi in Legend of Blue Eyes. So those are the sort of changes that I would make, just swapping some things around, because there are cards from Legend of Blue Eyes that are waiting in the wings for me to include, so just swap some things around. But yeah, that's my card by card look at the first two starter decks. So thanks for watching. I'll do more videos. I'll do like Legend of Blue Eyes in depths, I guess, because most of Legend of Blue Eyes is out. This weekend I'm also gonna have some videos where I'm discussing some things with Karakuri Kimachi. We'll probably get some games going, and yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.